here in my van Hope, which I built by hand, specifically for traveling the most remote regions in the country and meditating, studying, creating, writing, and attaining spiritual enlightenment. I have lit a Tibetan incense. It's one of my favorite. It's called Mahakala. It aids in concentration. It's wonderful. It instantly puts me into a state of meditation when I light it. I'm going to read to you what it says on the cover. Mahakala incense. Mahakala incense sticks combines around 100 medicinal and aromatic plants from the Himalayas. It can be offered to the protective deity Mahakala. It will also purify, refresh, and soothe your environment and yourself and protect you from obstacles, danger, and defilements. Definitely in my top 5 incense. I absolutely love this one. The next thing that I did was I made my tea. Now, just the act of drinking tea is very zen, very peaceful. But the teas that I drink are royal tonifying teas. The Taoist masters who drank these teas lived to be 100 to 120 years old. There is even online a Taoist master who learned the herbs, sold the herbs, did martial arts, and did internal energy cultivation, and he lived to be over 200. If you want, you can Google Taoist master who lived to be 250, and he should come up. Now, everything that I tell you, you should not take any of it as truth, but experiment for yourself and find out the truth. Closed-mindedness is a hindrance to enlightenment, and blind faith is the gateway to failure. So while we do need faith, because there's always uncertainty and we need faith that there's something on the other side of the door, we also want to learn from truth, from experience, and from experiments. So we want factual-based wisdom, not just fantasy-based wisdom. So I have been studying the herbs and drinking the herbs for well over 10 years, and I also sold the herbs for some time. If you would like to start studying the herbs, the 2 texts to start your studies are the Ayurvedic Materia Medica and the Chinese Materia Medica. Then, as you begin to learn each herb, study the sciences and the chemical constituents behind them. The chemical constituents can be quite advanced because it goes into diagrams, and it can be difficult to learn, but reading the experiments and starting to learn how exactly it works is very, very good wisdom to attain. In this tea here, I have reishi. Now, reishi is a mushroom. It's good for the liver. It makes you feel like you're walking on clouds. And it's good for every cell in the body. It aids in concentration and de-stresses. It's also one of the sacred longevity herbs. TP Shihu is dendrobium flower. Now, dendrobium comes in 2 ways, the flower and one with the stem rolled up and the flower. I use them both. This one is more expensive and said to be more effective. And it is the best, or according to the texts, the best Jing enhancer that there is. Jing essence is the essence of your life itself. It was created when your mother and your father, sperm and egg, connected. At that moment, based on the condition of their physical body and their spirit, your Jing essence was created. This increases your Jing essence. If you have too much sex, too much alcohol, too much impure food, you will waste your Jing. If you get into an injury, have pimples, it causes you to waste your Jing. If your Jing has been wasted, or if it hasn't, you drink this tea and it will restore your Jing essence, prolonging your life. The next one that I have is neem. Neem is one of my recent favorites. It has more chemical constituents than any other plant. It's a bitter plant. It turns your sperm into, or your sexual energy, into mental and spiritual energy. I just started taking neem a couple weeks ago. I absolutely love it. The next one I took is Tribulus terrestris. Tribulus terrestris increases testosterone. It's a very male yang herb. It increases strength. It increases kidney yang. The last one is Shatvari. Shatvari is an Ayurvedic herb. It is a feminine herb. It increases OHAs. So for a male, don't take too much of it. No more than once or twice a week. I keep my herbs in an 80-something herb rotation. So sometimes I won't have the same herb for 2 or 3 weeks, but I have all these herbs. I am writing the book, or my book, on the Royal Tonifying Herbalism and the main herbs that have to be in it. So stay tuned for that. Just know right now that there's at least 86 from India, from China, from Africa, from South America, from America that are essential if you plan to partake in Royal Tonifying Herbalism. So as you drink the tea, the water, when you put the herb in the hot water absorbs the essence of the herb. And because it is absorbed into the water and there's heat, it's easier for the essence to absorb into your body. If I am hot, I'll just put the powder into cold water, mix it up, let it sit for 5 or 10 minutes and drink it. That's fine. If you are cold, you would drink the warm tea and it heats up your body as well. The warm tea does enter into your body faster, but you do not want to overheat your body with too much fire. So if it's dead middle summer, you just put it in a bottle or a cup, mix it up, and then drink it cool, and it will cool you down. Herbs can be heating or cooling. For example, red ginseng is the most heating herb, and then white ginseng is a very cooling herb. So heat will increase your fire, and then cooling will cool down your fire. So you don't want your fire to be too hot, you don't want your fire to be too cool, but you want to constantly build your water and your fire and your strength in your body. When you drink these teas, they will increase the output of the fluids from the 7 main glands. The fluids from the 7 main glands, the pituitary, the pineal, the thyroid, the thymus, the adrenals, the testicles. These are the immortal fluids. The fluids that these glands produce are priceless, and they hold the essence of life itself. When you sit to meditate, your energy will come into your center column and your mind will relax. When we are doing physical action or going throughout the day, our body puts its energy into the limbs and into action. But when your body calms down, for example, if you sit down to watch television or if you relax at the end of the day, the body brings its energy back into the central column and it'll put its energy in producing hormones, replenishing fluids, and restoring the body. Drinking this tea greatly magnifies the amount of fluids that are produced by these glands. To get the most out of the tea, when you drink it, you want to learn how to cultivate the fluids and move them through your body. This takes dedication and practice and wisdom. So as I drink the tea, pull up from the bottom of the belly. This is root lock. It's root lock, and it's the root of everything. The bottom of the belly, there's a triangle which pulls the energy in your body up. To reach spiritual enlightenment, the energy has to be built and drawn up into the brain. Also, it keeps the fluids from dropping down into the lower part of the body, and it keeps the organs from dropping and sagging in the stomach girdle. So you want the organs to pull up, and you want the chemicals in the spinal column to pull up. The way that the hormones work and the way that the fluids work is in cycles. In fact, everything is in cycles. The cerebral spinal fluid circulates up and down the spine on an average of an hour and a half. Every day, the prostate, the testicles, the adrenals, all of the glands, they produce so much hormone. For a male, if the male ejaculates, all of these fluids, they go out of the body. When they go out of the body has to reproduce these fluids. So the male will be weak the next day. Also, the ejaculation weakens the central nervous system. 3 days after the male ejaculates, he'll be tired. At day 6, 7, it starts to build up again. From day 6, 7 to day 11, the male can get very aggravated, agitated. This is the natural process. After day 11, if you keep cultivating, every single cycle, the pressure will build up. The pressure in the prostate, the pressure in the testicles, the pressure in the cerebral spinal fluid will build up because the fluids begin to build up. If you have the self-discipline, which you have to, by day 11, your strength will start to increase and your body will start to get used to the cycles. So your body is a prisoner to habit. If you're in the habit of ejaculating every 3 to 7 days, your body will be in the habit of making the fluids in order to procreate. If you stop ejaculating, then your body will start to take the fluids inside. They'll circulate through the body. When they circulate through the body, they become ohas, they become stamina, and then they become mental strength. And this stamina from the virya, from the sexual energy, has to be built because the energy has to build up in the brain in order to attain spiritual enlightenment. When the energy builds up, if you keep cultivating it over time, you'll become very strong. Your mind will become strong. There'll be less anxiety. There'll be less worry. There'll be less fear. As your body gets used to cultivating these fluids through the cycles, it will adapt to making these fluids into ohas, chi, shen, energy, mental energy, emotional energy, physical energy, spiritual energy. Just by drinking this 1 cup of tea, I will get 2 to 10 times the amount of fluids than if I did not drink the tea. So knowing your teas, drinking your teas, and combining them with your internal energy cultivation is extremely powerful. And back in the day, the Indian people, the people from India, they only had access to the Indian herbs. Maybe some other herbs through trade route, but mostly Indian herbs. They had ginseng, and in China they had, some of the Indian herbs as well. But now we have access to all the herbs, all the Chinese herbs, all the Ayurvedic herbs. All the texts have been changed over to English in multiple languages. Before, how many people knew how to read Sanskrit and Chinese? Very few. Now, everything's right there in English first. We have all the herbs, all the text. So if you really want to move your practice as much as possible, incorporating the herbs is very important. And the more that you incorporate your herbs, the more self-discipline that you need to have, because when the body produces 3 times as much of the fluids, there's 3 times as much desire. So you have to be 3 times as much disciplined. Each time you ejaculate, you shorten your life. What's more important, life or ejaculation? That's up to you to decide. So, Now I'm drinking the tea. Let's get into how to cultivate the fluids. Fundamental 1, apply the root lock. Pull up from the bottom of the belly. Fundamental 2 is proper breath, so proper anatomy of breath, proper use of the lungs. The way that the lungs work, and this technique is called anatomy of breath. First, you make the spine strong like a tree trunk. Then you pull up from the bottom of the belly. Then the diaphragm expands, and the two floating ribs, they expand evenly like calipers. Now the left lung has 4 lobes, and the right lung has 5 lobes. So naturally, it's easier to breathe into the right lung. The left lung has 4 lobes because the heart is into the chest cavity. So to breathe evenly through both lungs takes concentration on the opening of the floating ribs so that they open up evenly. When the floating ribs open up evenly, the ribs on the front and the outside, they open like this, like buckets on a handle. The skin on the back is tight like a drum and should be opened up. And the intercostal muscles should also open. And the breath of the yogi should go all the way into the upper back. This takes training. The average person's breath, an untrained breather, does not breathe into the clavicles or above the clavicles. Just by fixing your anatomy of breath, you can get some of the psychosomatic illnesses to stop. Because the anxiety and the worry, when you focus on your breath, you'll see that the anxiety and the worry make the lungs work in a non-efficient fashion. Make each breath count. Never waste a breath. Also, the yogi should be increasing their lung span over a long period of time. So the more that you open up these joints, the more that you open up these muscles, the more that you stretch the skin, teach the body how to breathe properly, the more lung capacity that you'll have. When you start to apply your root lock and do these breaths, pay attention to what's happening along the glands. If you know your chakras, you can pay attention to your chakras. Remember, the chakra is a vortex in which the physical body interacts with the energy and sends signals throughout the body. So by working with the chakras, you can affect the physicality. One technique is chakra chanting. I have a video on it. It's lam, vam, ram, yum, hum, hum. But when you do the lam, the vam, the ram, the yam, the hum, the you want to do some yama on each chakra. You focus on each of the chakras as you make the syllable and you visualize the color. When the vibration vibrates there, you gain inner knowledge of each of the chakra centers. This knowledge builds over time. The magic number is a 100-day commitment. But really, you want to make this a part of your everyday life. If you make it a part of your everyday life, you'll notice extreme differences in your life, extreme differences in your electromagnetism, extreme differences in your lack of anxiety. The sexual activity weakens the central nervous system, which is connected to the anxiety. So when you build the virya and you build the fluids, your central nervous system becomes more stable. There's less anxiety. These are the immortal practices. Let's sit together for some time and practice. We're going to keep this simple. We're going to pull up from the bottom of the belly and work on our anatomy of breath for a couple minutes. So Anapanasati and Satipana. Anapanasati, insight meditation, is where you start to pay attention to your breath. Satipana is where you start to pay attention to all of the sense data that's happening. Pranayama is awareness of breath, exercising breath, but in what I teach, it's also internal energy cultivation. The internal energy cultivation should be practiced daily. I hope this helps. Any questions, comments, guys, leave below. I feel this is the fastest way that I can teach you, is if you see my own personal practice and what I do and how I cultivate the energy. I feel that this is the best for you to learn as quickly as possible. It's like if you're a rookie in the NBA and they throw you in, if you rub elbows with the greats, very quickly you'll get good. It's the same way. This is my private practice. Many years of cultivation and reading and study to do these practices. So I hope this helps, guys.